In this video, I'm going to go over a lot of definitions connected to the types of memory. The main types we're going to talk about: sensory memory, short-term memory, and long-term memory. There's different parts of the brain and different types of memories that go into these. You can have effortful or automatic processing connected to long-term memory storage. If it's effortful processing, you can have explicit memories. Implicit memories often go with automatic processing, potentially effortful. Cerebellum and basal ganglia are more connected with implicit memories. The hippocampus and amygdala can be more connected to explicit memories, but also potentially a little bit of this implicit. Once we get all these definitions in place, it will make significantly more sense. So we'll start at the top and work our way down. First, you have sensory memories. Sensory memories are the immediate, very brief recording of sensory information in the memory system. These are two different types. You can have iconic or echoic. If it's iconic, it is visual. It only lasts a fraction of a second. We are talking just about 500, 600 milliseconds. It is very, very brief. And after that time, if you are trying to be consciously aware of it, if you're trying to pay attention to it, it will move on to short-term memory. If you are not trying to pay attention to it, it will be gone forever. You can also have echoic, which is auditory. The easiest way to tell these apart: echo is a sound, so echoic is auditory. This lasts 3 to 4 seconds. And again, this is not intentional. This is immediate memory. The best example for echoic that I can think of is if you're talking to someone and you totally stop paying attention to them, and then they notice that you stop paying attention to them, and they ask, "What did I just say?" And you can say the last couple of words. You remember the last couple of words they said, even though you weren't trying to. That's your echoic memory. You can only remember the last 3 or 4 seconds. You don't remember the whole gist of the conversation. You just remember the end because that was what was in your sensory echoic memory. So those are the two types of sensory memory you need to know. Then you have short-term or working memory. It's called working memory because this is the active form of memory, but working and short-term memory, same thing. The activation of memory that holds a few items briefly before the information is stored, forgotten. This stresses conscious, active processing of incoming auditory and visual spatial information and information retrieved from long-term memory. This does not last long. This lasts at most 30 seconds. There is a limit to how much you can store in your short-term memory. It depends on what the information is, whether it's words or numbers. Your book goes more into that magic number. But this is what you are using in the moment. Just like with sensory memory, there's different types. You can have visual. That would be like seeing a map in your mind. You can have auditory. That would be like a tape recorder that is playing. And then you have central executive, which monitors and coordinates the other two. So the most efficient way to do your working memory is if all of them work together. If your visual and your auditory are working in conjunction with each other. If they don't, if you're trying to ignore one type of short-term memory and focus on the other, it's easier to focus on your auditory short-term memory. That's because most of your short-term memories are auditory. For example, if you're trying to remember something, back in the day when we were using phone books, if you were looking up a number in the phone book and then you had to walk over to your landline to dial the number, the way you kept that information in your short-term memory was by saying the number over and over again in your head. That was using your auditory short-term memory. So auditory is more effective than visual, and what coordinates those two is your central executive. Next, we have long-term memory. This is relatively permanent and limitless. You do not have to remove a memory in order to make room to store a new long-term memory. There is an unlimited capacity to your long-term memory, and unless something goes wrong, it's going to stay there long-term. Thus the name. It'll be a permanent memory. One way to get information into that long-term memory is effortful processing. This requires attention and conscious effort. If you are studying for a test, you are using effortful processing. You are trying to pay attention to it. You are consciously making an effort to remember. Explicit memories are memories of facts and personal events that you consciously retrieve, declarative. So if you are doing effortful processing, the vast majority of those are going to be explicit memories. So explicit memories, some of them are facts. Remembering the definition of explicit memory is an explicit memory. Some of them are going to be more personal events. If you remember your 18th birthday, that is also an explicit memory. And these are called declarative because you can declare them. You can say, I know this, let me tell you what I remember. It's easy to talk about, it's easy to explain. That's what that means by declarative and how you can have conscious retrieval. The parts of the brain that are connected with this, one is the hippocampus. That's the neural center in the limbic system that helps process explicit memories into storage. Again, we talked about this in chapter 2. The reason that the limbic system, which is the emotion and drive center, has this memory storage is because oftentimes your explicit memories, especially the ones of personal events, are going to have an emotional component to it. So the explicit memories stored in your brain are in this hippocampus, except if they're connected to fear. The amygdala is the part of the limbic system that is associated with fear, and thus memories that are connected with fear are also stored in the amygdala rather than the hippocampus. So memories where stress hormones are released is another way of saying these fear memories, because oftentimes when you're afraid, your body releases cortisol, adrenaline, what these stress hormones are. Oftentimes these memories are vivid. They can also be automatically processed. We'll get into that next, because they are traumatic and unexpected, and your brain just wants to store it immediately because it knows it's important. Those would be called flashbulb memories. So flashbulb memories with a fear component are going to be in the amygdala. You have automatic processing. This is unconscious encoding of everyday life. There's really two ways this can go. Both fall into automatic processing. This is the type of processing into long-term memory storage that you don't try to do. It's automatic, not effortful. For example, if you see someone spill their soda in a fast food restaurant and you say, wow, that's the 3rd time this week I've seen someone spill a soda. It's not that every single time you saw someone spill a soda, you stop and say, okay, I need to try to remember this. On the off chance I see someone else spilling a soda, I want to be able to say, wow, this is the X number of times that I've seen this week. No, but when it happens 3 times, you are able to say, wow, this has happened 3 times. That's because you automatically processed how many times you saw that happen. Another example of automatic processing would be if you lose your keys. How do you find them again? You retrace your steps. How are you able to retrace your steps? Automatic processing. Even though every time you go somewhere, you don't stop and say, okay, I need to remember, I just left this place and now I'm going to that place just in case I need to retrace my steps. But if you actually have to go back and retrace your steps, you're able to, because you automatically process that sort of information. So you can have significant life events that go through automatic processing, those flashbulb memories, or it can be more of this mundane stuff that can be automatic processing. also have implicit memories. This is in contrast to the explicit memories. Implicit memories are skills, classically conditioned associations. You don't have conscious awareness of it. We are not talking about repressed memories here. This is something like how to tie your shoe. If you had to tell someone how to tie a shoe without remembering a cutesy little phrase and without using your hands, with your hands tied behind your back, it would be really hard to do. I'm assuming you know how to tie your shoes, but it's an implicit memory, and thus it's difficult to talk about, to consciously discuss. It's easier to just do it. Or driving stick shift. If you know how to drive stick shift and you've ever tried to teach someone, it is really hard, even if you're awesome at driving stick shift, because it's an implicit memory. You just sort of have to know it. You can do it, you can't really talk about it. All those fall into implicit memories. For implicit memories connected to classical conditioning, those are stored in the cerebellum. And for implicit memories connected to motor skills, those are stored in the basal ganglia. So these are all of the definitions that you need to know connected to the various types of memory and where they are stored.